Japan's school system is known for its discipline, excellence, and results. But behind the quiet classrooms and perfect uniforms lies a disturbing truth. Children pushed to breaking points, endless exams, rampant bullying. In today's video, we uncover the 7 darkest realities of Japan's education system, stories they don't show in anime, and truths most people will never talk about. From exam hell to mental health crises, stay with me to see how this beautiful system may be quietly destroying the very children it was meant to shape. Yuken Jigoku exam hell. Let me take you back to being 10 years old. While kids in many countries are out riding bikes or playing video games, in Japan, many are already preparing for war, a silent war called Juken Jigoku, or exam hell. It's not a joke. It's a national obsession, and it begins earlier than you'd ever imagine. Here, academic success isn't just encouraged, it's everything. Parents spend thousands on tutoring, cram schools, and private test prep, hoping their kid can secure a seat in the right school. Because in Japan, the school you get into doesn't just shape your education, it defines your entire future. Imagine the pressure of knowing that a single exam could determine your life trajectory, from the university you attend to the job you'll be allowed to get. Kids don't just study, they grind, day and night, test after test. And it's not just once, it's every few years starting from elementary school. And here's the wild part. This pressure doesn't always come from teachers. It's from home, from society, from other parents. It's a quiet, collective expectation, spoken in raised eyebrows, whispered in school hallways, and shouted in private through endless homework sheets. The stress builds silently. Kids develop stomach ulcers, insomnia, anxiety disorders. There's even a spike in hospital visits around exam season, but society brushes it off. Gambate, they say. Do your best. As if a child's breaking point is just another test to pass. Now, don't get me wrong. Japan produces brilliant minds. The education system does teach discipline, work ethic, and focus. But at what cost? The question isn't whether these kids are succeeding. It's whether they're surviving. And while some thrive in this structure, many crumble quietly under the weight. It's not that they aren't smart enough, it's that they're human. And this kind of constant mental strain, it's not natural for any child. Think about your own childhood. Now picture trading it for cram school every night, constant pressure every day, and failure never being an option. That's not just academic rigor, that's emotional warfare in a uniform. So the next time someone praises Japan's perfect school system, remember the faces behind the test scores. Some are glowing with pride, but many more are quietly trying to survive one more day of exam hell. Yoku cram schools. When the final school bell rings in Japan, you'd think the kids get to rest, right? Not quite. For many, it's just halftime. After a full day of regular school, thousands of students head straight to another building to do it all over again. Welcome to the world of Juku, or cram schools. Juku isn't optional for most ambitious families. It's the unspoken rule. These private institutions are designed to drill students for exams with robotic precision. More math, more kanji, more pressure. And somehow it all starts after dinner when other kids are brushing their teeth for bed. Some students spend more time at cram school than at home. They eat convenience store meals between lessons and get back just in time to collapse into bed. This isn't rare, it's normal. In fact, if you don't go to Juku, people start to worry you're falling behind. There's even this weird hierarchy among cram schools. The more expensive or exclusive it is, the more prestige it adds to your child's academic image. It's not just about learning, it's about competing, performing, being worth the investment. It's a cycle that feeds itself. Parents feel pressured to enroll their kids. Kids feel pressured to meet expectations. And the cram school industry? It's thriving, worth billions. It's one of Japan's quiet giants, profiting off anxiety and ambition wrapped in clean uniforms. To be fair, Juku can help students improve. The teachers are often passionate, the materials advanced, but when kids are too tired to enjoy a meal, too anxious to sleep, and too burned out to smile, you have to ask, is this still education or just survival? There's little time left for hobbies, rest, or even friendships. Childhood starts to look like a corporate internship. Long hours, heavy expectations, zero room to breathe. And they're only 12, sometimes 10. Think about that. And this kind of routine becomes muscle memory. By high school, exhaustion is the norm. Sleep deprivation is expected. Burnout isn't a bug, it's a feature. These kids become adults who think rest is laziness and pressure is love. Juku is a system that trains excellence, but it rarely teaches joy. It prepares students for tests, but not for life. And honestly, that might be the biggest test of all. Lack of sleep. Sleep. It sounds simple, right? Something every human needs, but in Japan, it's almost seen as a luxury, or worse, a sign of weakness. Kids, teens, even adults are running on empty, and no one seems to stop and ask, why are we okay with this? Many Japanese students average just 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night. Between school, juku, homework, and commuting, there simply isn't time to rest. And when they do rest, it's often with textbooks still open, alarm clocks set for another brutal morning. Here's the wild part. Being sleep-deprived is sometimes a badge of honor. Students brag about staying up all night to study. Companies admire employees who fall asleep at their desks. It shows dedication. It's called inemuri, or sleeping while present. It's not lazy, it's loyal. But let's be real. This is a quiet crisis. Chronic sleep loss isn't just about feeling tired. It affects mental health, memory, focus, even growth. It makes anxiety worse. It weakens the immune system. And still, the grind doesn't stop. Japan's culture of endurance, of pushing through no matter what, has created a silent epidemic. It's no coincidence that the country has some of the highest rates of stress-induced illness and depression among youth in developed nations. Kids fall asleep in class not because they're bored, but because their brains are begging for rest. And teachers often turn a blind eye because they've been there too. It's normalized, it's expected, but it's not okay. It's heartbreaking when you realize many students don't even remember what it feels like to feel rested. They've never had the chance to. For them, constant exhaustion isn't a phase, it's their default setting. This culture of sleep sacrifice may be wrapped in discipline and duty, but it chips away at joy, curiosity, and health. It's not just unsustainable, it's damaging an entire generation before they even reach adulthood. If Japan wants to keep its brilliance and its humanity, it might need to start with something radical, letting its people rest. Ijime bullying. In Japan, ijime is not just a term, it's a harsh reality. Bullying in schools is systemic, deeply embedded in the culture, often overlooked by adults. It isn't always physical, it's psychological, a silent war that leaves invisible scars. It's the way whispers, cold shoulders, and exclusion cut deeper than any punch. The consequences are tragic, often leading to a loss of hope, and in some cases, a loss of life. Students who face ijime don't just suffer from the cruelty of their peers, they're also trapped in a system that doesn't protect them. Teachers may see the signs, but with the pressure to maintain harmony and avoid conflict, intervention often feels like an afterthought. The students are left to endure, feeling isolated and voiceless in the face of relentless cruelty. Imagine walking into a room where every face is a reminder of your failure, where every day is a reminder of being less than. That's the reality for many bullied students. They're not just dealing with the pain of being ostracized, they're carrying the weight of societal expectations that don't allow for vulnerability or weakness. The shame is suffocating. But here's the twist. Ijime is often seen as a rite of passage, a cruel initiation into the harshness of life. The belief is that enduring bullying builds character, but what it really does is crush self-worth. It creates a generation that's afraid to speak up, afraid to admit they're struggling. The silence only grows louder, echoing in every corner of Japan's schools. In a country that prides itself on community, where collective harmony is valued above all, the individual becomes invisible. Those who don't fit the mold are often the ones who suffer the most. The bullying isn't just about kids being mean to each other. It's a reflection of a deeper societal issue that places conformity above individuality. The tragic outcomes are stark. The suicide rate among bullied students is alarmingly high. According to reports, many bullied children feel trapped in a system that offers no escape. The pressure to be perfect, to fit in, becomes unbearable, leading some to make the irreversible decision to end it all. This is the hidden dark side of a society that demands so much from its youth. But there is hope. Change is slowly but surely coming. The dialogue around bullying is growing, and there's a rising awareness about the devastating impact it has on mental health. Teachers and parents are starting to take a more active role in addressing bullying, trying to create safer, more supportive environments for students to thrive without fear of being singled out. The conversation needs to continue, though. We need to stop treating bullying as a rite of passage and start treating it for what it is: a cry for help. For those who are victims of Ijime, we must ask ourselves, how can we help? It's time to listen, to support, and to create a culture where every student feels seen and valued, no matter how different they may be. The stories of Ijime are heartbreaking, but they are also a call to action. We need to ask ourselves, not just as a society but as individuals, how we can make a difference. It starts with small actions, offering support to a classmate, speaking up when we see something wrong, and most importantly, reminding everyone that they matter. Only then can we begin to heal the invisible wounds that Ijime leaves behind. No room for emotions. In Japan, the educational system is built on discipline, structure, and an unwavering focus on academic achievement. Students are expected to perform at their best, no exceptions. But what happens when the pressure of this rigid structure stifles the very essence of being human? Emotions are often sidelined, treated as distractions rather than part of a student's overall well-being. Imagine being a student who's constantly told to keep your head down, work hard, and never show weakness. In Japan's schools, emotions are seen as a hindrance to success. There's little room for vulnerability or self-expression. The emphasis is always on the collective. The group must succeed, and individual emotional needs are sacrificed in the name of harmony. This doesn't just apply to students who struggle academically. Even the high achievers feel the pressure. The expectation to constantly excel leaves little room for rest or reflection. There's no space to breathe, to acknowledge that sometimes you just need a break. The emotional weight builds up, and for many students it becomes a ticking time bomb ready to explode at any moment. The toll this takes on mental health is staggering. Students are not encouraged to talk about their struggles, be it anxiety, loneliness, or depression. Instead, they're expected to push through it, to keep going without complaint. The pressure to maintain a facade of perfection creates an environment where mental health issues are hidden, only to surface in destructive ways when they become unbearable. But here's the thing. By not acknowledging emotions, the system is failing students. Emotions are not a weakness, they're a part of being human. When students are not given the tools to manage their feelings, it leads to feelings of isolation and alienation. And without the support to work through these emotions, it becomes harder to function, let alone thrive. This lack of emotional support is not just an issue for students, it affects teachers as well. In a system that demands conformity and obedience, educators are often too overwhelmed to recognize the emotional needs of their students, let alone address them. In a society where emotional expression is frowned upon, the need for mental health support becomes even more critical. But change is on the horizon. More schools are beginning to recognize the importance of emotional well-being alongside academic achievement. There are initiatives focused on mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and counseling. These efforts are small, but they're a step in the right direction toward creating a more balanced approach to education. In the long run, a shift in the educational culture is necessary, one that acknowledges that emotional health is just as important as academic success. Students must be taught that it's okay to feel, to express those feelings, and to seek help when needed. Only then will the system truly support the whole student, not just the academic performance. Ultimately, we must ask ourselves, how can we create a system that values both the mind and the heart? A system that encourages students to strive for excellence without sacrificing their emotional well-being. That's the challenge ahead, one that will require understanding, compassion, and a willingness to change the way we approach education. Suicide rates. Japan's suicide rates, particularly among students, are shockingly high. Every year, the country grapples with the tragic loss of young lives, many of them driven to despair by the unrelenting pressure to succeed. The most devastating part? It often peaks around exam time, when the weight of academic expectations becomes unbearable. This is a dark reality that many try to ignore, but it's one that demands attention. Imagine the fear and anxiety that grips a student during exam season. The pressure is immense. The idea that one's entire future is determined by a single test can feel like a death sentence. The constant barrage of expectations from family, teachers, and society builds a perfect storm of stress, and for some it becomes too much to bear. The thought of failing is not just disappointing, it's catastrophic. Students feel the weight of these expectations every single day. The unspoken rule is simple: success is everything, and failure is not an option. But no one ever teaches them how to cope with the failure of not meeting these expectations. The emotional toll of constantly pushing yourself, of living in constant fear of disappointing others, slowly chips away at mental health, creating a sense of hopelessness. During exam season, this despair reaches its peak. Students face an all-consuming fear of failure, and the pressure to perform can lead to tragic outcomes. The statistics are chilling. According to reports, many students take their own lives during or right after exams, unable to see a way out of the suffocating environment they've been placed in. It's as if the exam is not just a test of knowledge, but a test of their very worth. The tragedy of these suicides is compounded by the fact that the societal focus on academic achievement often overlooks the human side of education. Students are not encouraged to see exams as part of a larger journey, but as the defining moment of their entire existence. The concept of failure becomes so unbearable that some students see no escape from the overwhelming pressure. The cultural stigma around mental health in Japan only exacerbates the issue. For many students, the idea of seeking help or admitting weakness is taboo. They fear being seen as a failure in other ways, not just academically, but socially and emotionally. It creates a vicious cycle of isolation, where students suffer in silence, unable to reach out for help because of the shame they fear. But change is starting to happen. Awareness around mental health and suicide prevention is slowly growing, and more efforts are being made to support students. Counseling services are becoming more common, and there is a gradual shift toward encouraging students to take care of their mental health, not just their grades. The conversation is changing, though it's still far from enough. To truly tackle the issue, we need to look beyond the exams and acknowledge the underlying causes of this despair. The obsession with perfection, the lack of emotional support, and the societal pressure to conform all contribute to the pain that students experience. By changing how we view success and failure, we can create a healthier, more supportive environment where students can thrive without sacrificing their well-being. The fight against student suicides in Japan is far from over, but we can take steps to make a difference. It starts with acknowledging the problem, speaking openly about mental health, and creating a culture where it's okay to not be okay. Only then will we be able to save lives and change the course for future generations. The perfect student trap. In Japan, there's an almost unattainable ideal of what the perfect student looks like. It's a mold that every student is expected to fit into: disciplined, obedient, academically successful, and most importantly, unremarkable in their individuality. The pressure to conform to this ideal is immense, leaving little space for students to express their true selves or pursue passions that don't align with the rigid educational structure. From an early age, students are taught that the key to success is not standing out, but fitting in. It's a culture where being unique can be viewed as disruptive, even wrong. Students are expected to follow the rules, blend into the group, and avoid drawing attention to themselves. Creativity, personal expression, and divergent thinking are often seen as secondary to achieving academic success. Imagine being a student who has dreams, talents, and ideas that don't fit the mold. The system doesn't reward creativity, it rewards conformity. The perfect student is someone who never questions authority, never deviates from the prescribed path, and who works tirelessly to achieve top marks. The idea is that individuality is a luxury that can't be afforded if you want to succeed. But here's the catch. This demand for conformity comes at a steep price. When every student is forced to fit into the same mold, it stifles their sense of identity. Students begin to feel like they're not allowed to be themselves, like they have to suppress their passions and interests in order to be seen as successful. This leads to a generation of young people who, despite their outward achievements, feel lost and disconnected from their true selves. The pressure to be the perfect student is not just about academic performance, it's about behavior, appearance, and attitude. From the way they dress to how they speak, students are subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, pressured to fit within a very narrow definition of what's acceptable. It's not enough to be good at school. You have to be the right kind of student, one who blends in perfectly with the expectations of society. What happens when a student doesn't fit this mold? They face isolation, ridicule, and sometimes outright rejection. There's little tolerance for those who deviate from the norm, and even less for those who challenge the system. The idea of failure isn't just about grades. It's about not living up to the cultural expectations of what a student should be. And for many, this feels like a failure of identity, a loss of self-worth. But much like the other issues we've discussed, change is happening. Some students are beginning to question the status quo. There's a slow shift towards recognizing that success isn't one size fits all. More schools are beginning to embrace individuality, creativity, and personal growth, encouraging students to explore who they are outside of academic achievements. The hope is that by fostering a more inclusive environment, students will feel free to develop their own identities. We must ask ourselves, is the perfect student really the ideal we should be striving for? Is success truly defined by conformity, or is it about nurturing the potential of every student, no matter how unique they may be? Only when we move away from this rigid definition of success will we allow students to fully realize their potential and give them the freedom to be themselves. In the end, the perfect student isn't one who fits a mold. It's one who finds their own path, who embraces their individuality and contributes something new to the world. Japan's education system has a long way to go, but by acknowledging the value of individuality, we can create a space where every student can thrive, not just in academics, but in life. If this shocked you as much as it shocked me, hit the like button and share this story. The world needs to see what's really happening inside Japan's schools. Let me know in the comments, should this system change? Or is this just the price of excellence? And don't forget to subscribe, more hidden stories are coming soon.